Okay, hi again, Roger. I already had a longer interview with you, now a shorter one. We'll try to fit into 5 minutes.
I promised you one breath.
Yeah, one breath,
answer.
in one breath.
Yes.
So the first question that you opened up your talk with was, who am I?
Who am I?
And I think it's a very crucial question, but I've always wondered, why don't we have this question into our educational system? Why doesn't it strive to, the educational system doesn't strive somehow to answer this question? Or society itself doesn't push us into questioning what we are and what we represent. And I was wondering, it's a very big decision in this sense between the Western society and the Eastern society, because in the Eastern society you have this question, is one of the main questions that they ask themselves. Whereas in our society it's somewhere back. It's not a worry.
That's right. Yeah. Our educational system is more on the advocacy side. I think the Eastern way is the inquiry side of asking questions and sitting with, proverbially and physically, sitting with questions for a long period of time to allow them to evolve, take on a life. And we don't do that, and we should. To me, I think that was one of the frustrating things, was to live this long period of life and have, gone for just advocacy in life, like you must achieve this, you must do this, you must check this off the list. And nowhere along the way did I ever ask the question, why am I doing this?
When did you start asking the question?
I think I started asking the question indirectly when I started asking people. I was like, what is your favorite job to be if you weren't fill in the blank? And I saw a lot of lawyers, so I'd say, what would be your dream job? And I found that 90% of lawyers would say something different. So then I asked other people who are in other professions, I'd say, what's your dream job? And I found 90% of them said something else than their job that they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I started saying, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you doing what your dream job was, being a journalist?
And why do you think that people are afraid to do what they love doing? The risk is too big, or?
Because it takes personal risk, that's why.
Mm-hmm.
If you are taking professional risk, then everybody says, oh, that's okay, you failed. You lost the trial because the facts were against you, or you didn't win the architectural challenge because you had a lot of competition. But if you put yourself into it, then you're having to put yourself on the line, not some ideal on the line. And it's really hard and intimidating and scary to say, that's who I am.
True. And my next question is related to the power of words, because it's also it was evident also from your speech, because I believe that your speech was really powerful, and the words that you said and the way you presented it was very powerful. So do you think that people realize this power of what they're saying to others, this energy that they're passing on, and do they use it for good, or they ignore this power?
I think most of our communication is inadvertent when we use language. It both reveals and conceals. It's our best way to communicate over distance, right, without the physical communication. But it also conceals what is really natural to us. Like if you're around a child, they know exactly what your temperament is right away. You don't have to tell them, right? But I have to ask you, are you happy? Are you okay? And we're always asking each other, are you okay? Why do we have to even ask that question? Our words, and then we lie. I think there's all these studies now that the average person lies like 16 times a day. And the closer you are in a relationship to somebody else, the more you lie to them. I'm fine.
Next question. I've really... Actually, the part where you said that we are all part of the same thing, that we are all like dots, and it really reminded me of something that a friend of mine tells me, that we're all cells from the same body, and that we're so connected, and that we can be so powerful if we stay together. And it's a really powerful thought, and every time that I meet with her, I get back to this emotion, and it seems to give sense to everything around you, that you're a reflection of the other, they're a reflection of you, but you easily forget this thing once you go out in the world, and you easily get accustomed to being an individual and being on your own, because that's how society structures you to be.
Yeah. The benefit of the oneness of being very individual is is it creates striving, and that striving helps us to build bridges and make buildings and do math and do all sorts of really great stuff. But it also strips us of the humanity that connects us all. And when you find that connection, those connections, our happiness is multiplied and our suffering is divided when you realize we're all connected. It's only when you're alone that it's amplified, the suffering, and the happiness feels very lonely.
Stand tall and be like a tree.
Stand tall.
Can you explain the metaphor?
Sure, yes, be like a tree. That trees start off as an acorn. Everything that is inside of a tree is already within the acorn. But the acorn doesn't know that. The acorn just wants to be an acorn. And it takes sunlight and just the right amount of nature and care and so forth for that acorn to sprout up and then be strong and grow up and then become like this tree. And as a tree, it grows into this great strength from this tiny thing, but genetically everything it needs to be that tree is already there. It just doesn't know it. And so part of it is just looking inside to find out you're really a tree and you're treating yourself like an acorn. Go ahead and start growing. And then full-size trees, when the wind comes, they bend and they rock. When the rain comes, they soak it up and then they give out all this air. Trees grow from air, not from soil. They grow from what they pull out of the air. That's how we are.
So you learn how to blend with the environment.
Depends. Sometimes you see a tree on a hill by itself, holding shade just by itself. Sometimes a tree is part of a forest. Depends on where its nature is.
So you believe that every person has a potential with him. There's something to unlock within him. That's
the right word, yeah. We are, that acorn is within us to unlock. It's up to us to have the courage to just let it happen, right? I mean, the greatest point in life is to be you, is to have the courage to be you.
How do you connect body and mind?
How do you connect body and mind? Well, as a person, the way you get back to it is, our brain is this mechanical thing that then creates on its own. There's some science behind the neurology of called autopiesis and some things like that. But how we can reconnect to it ourselves is just to get still and allow ourselves to use our brain instead of our brain using us. So let me give you an example. Try not to touch your face for a day. Just don't touch your face for a whole day. And you'll start reconnecting to your brain and your body. Because your brain just automatically overrides you and just keeps touching it, right? But then when you reconnect to it through your body, it'll slow it down. And if you saw that film, The Matrix, and the bullets move very slowly, it's because they've slowed down their thinking process and reconnected to their bodies.
So if you slow down if you slow down your actions, the way you use your body, you reconnect with it.
That's right.
You feel it easier because if you use your body without thinking about the actions that you do or without actually feeling your body, then you cannot create a connection between the mind and the body.
Yeah, and when you worked out and you feel good, your body feels alive. Mm-hmm. Your body is taking back some of its strength from the brain because your body has equal or more strength, and your brain is just part of your body. Your brain doesn't want to remember that it is.
Are you happy now?
Am I happy? I'm more happy than I have been in the past. I think it's a practice every day. I try to extend some happiness, and I hope that happiness comes back. I do. I need to smile. Smile is one of the first practices. I grew up not smiling so much, so it's been a pleasure to find people smile back when they smile.
It's strange for me to think. I feel that nowadays we have this. We are fixed on the fact that we have to find happiness. The pursuit of happiness is so important to be happy. Everything is really concentrated, and the truth is that you cannot be happy. You can be fulfilled, but happiness is a...
That's right. Yeah. Happiness is a byproduct. Happiness is... That's the whole point that I don't have time for, is happiness is a byproduct of wholeness, of feeling fulfilled. Happiness comes from... If you strive for happiness, You know, you can go buy whatever it is you want to buy. You can spend years working to buy the yacht, the big house, whatever else. And you're happy for a minute, and then you're not so happy.
Because the meaning of the word happiness nowadays has changed. You know, they sell you happiness so easily, so you mistake it. Where you go out and you take a drink, and that's happiness already. You post a picture how you're out, and you take a drink, and that's supposed to be happiness. It's not that you realize the moment of happiness, but you see it from distance. You think, I should have been happy in this moment. It means that I'm happy because I was with those people in this circumstance.
That's right.
And you don't take time to realize.
Happiness is a flow state that you're not realizing you're happy. You're just lost in time because you're being you.
So we have to meditate.
That's one way to do it. There's other ways, but that's one.